Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, episode number 21. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, the I.M.A.G.E program is a 501c3 nonprofit organization designed to help those returning citizens entering society in the Des Moines, Iowa community. And we have a lot of different programs that we offer, like First Fridays, where we have a support group for guys on Fridays, and we're able to obtain these individuals in a cohort setting, help them deal with barriers that deal with reentry. We are located in Des Moines, Iowa, where it's freezing cold in the wintertime. And on our show today, we have two great guests. We're going to get to our second guest, which is going to be Craig Davis. Most of you may remember Craig Davis. He played for Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. He now is the president and founder of Davis Entertainment Network, and it's a streaming TV program. Craig reached out to me, very nice guy. He's going to be on the show a little bit later. Right now, I have with me Antoinette Shade. And Antoinette Shade has a wonderful story. She's got a brand new 501c3 nonprofit organization right here in Des Moines, Iowa. And her platform is similar to mine. It helps those who are incarcerated returning back into the Des Moines area, and she's really passionate about helping these people. She puts in a lot of work, and I thought that it was great to have another person right here in our Des Moines community on the show. So, Antoinette, it is a pleasure to have you on the I.M.A.G.E show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Can you tell us just a little bit about what you do and a little bit about your program?
Absolutely. My name is Antoinette Shade, as you heard. I'm the founder and president of the Union of Black America. The Union of Black America is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that we founded in 2019. The UBA was founded out of a passion of mine that I've always had. Honestly, as a young child, I found myself extremely inspired by the stories of the civil rights movement, and I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be a part of that. And so I found the inspiration for the UBA while working, honestly, at a at a factory. When I saw how unions work and the strength and solidarity and the power that normal workers would have. The UBA is a nonprofit organization that is geared towards strengthening the Black community in areas of education, economic wealth, social development, and social justice. We work primarily to give Black people or the Black community to empower them. And by unionizing them. The unionization is a tried and true tactic that helps to shift the balance of power, and we believe that unionization is what will be the grassroots movement that the Black community needs to just address our most pressing needs.
That's beautiful. Anytime I see somebody that's helping the incarcerated, I have a big heart for those people, because number one, I think that it's important to help people who are helpless. And when I say helpless, I mean if a person is in the process of serving their time, particularly in Iowa, where they didn't always get a fair shake, particularly dealing with nonviolent offenses and even violent offenses. You know, these people need help coming out. Our justice system is shaping and forming, and we need more activists who are going to get involved and be a part of this.
Absolutely.
So I think that this is great.
Yeah, I think that's just that's where my heart is. I definitely believe in speaking up for those who don't have a voice, and that's what we're doing right now. Currently, our Justice Committee is working on the behalf of a man named William C. Scott out of Waterloo, Iowa,
William C. Scott
Yes.
out of Waterloo, Iowa. Yeah, he's serving a life sentence
Yes.
for felony murder. Is that correct?
Yes. He was convicted in 1991 of felony murder. Since then, the rule that was applied to Scott has changed. However, it did not change retroactively, and that means that people like Scott need people like us to give them a voice and to advocate for the commutation of their life sentences.
Yes. Yeah, we have Scott, and then there's also a lot of lifers that are serving life sentences for first-degree murder who have been in there for 30, 40 years, who have actually made changes. And I am actually in support and a part of a bill that most people are aware of here in Des Moines, Iowa, where it would allow lifers to be reviewed after 25 years. Now, this doesn't include all lifers, but this bill is so important. And for those of you who are watching, I ask that you actually maybe write this bill down. House File 377. House File 377. It's currently, it was just in the subcommittee this past week. We did a marvelous job in speaking up and supporting it, and we're praying that this bill continues to pass. But I think that it's so important that there is somebody there to help deal with this mass incarceration, these convictions, these frivolous convictions. There's so many convictions that it's hard to say that these people are being treated fairly because there's so much inconsistency.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I commend you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, we live to give a voice to people who don't have that opportunity, and like you said, we have a bureaucracy state that emphasizes crime and punishment. Then there's also just a discrepancy.
Yes, and injustice.
Yes, and imbalance.
When you talk about the corruption, you have to look at Black Hawk County because you want to talk about, now you think Polk County is bad. You look at Waterloo, Iowa, and Black Hawk County, it is ridiculous. That court system, I mean, it's almost like modern day slavery. I would imagine that, there's been some kind of recognition on this, probably not, but the guys that I had ran across after serving 11 consecutive years in prison, they were in there for enormous amounts of time. They were getting railroaded, shifted, didn't have a chance. Even if they had a private lawyer, a lot of them didn't have much of a chance. So there's a lot of people that don't know about this kind of stuff that takes place, and this is why we're on the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast. So
absolutely. Actually, like I said, William Scott, we heard about him, and he actually is from Waterloo, Iowa.
You ever heard of, I don't mean to cut you off, but have you ever heard of a man by the name of William Arthur Breeze?
No, I have not.
Okay, Breeze is serving a life sentence as well. He's a role model. He's ran a bunch of different programs, worked with wardens all over. This guy has been shot down for commutation every time he's went up. You have other guys like Dick Spence. I could go on, but for the most part, these people need help.
Yes, and and I decided that it's not necessarily a popular thing to do when we're talking about advocating for someone who's been convicted of murder. But in many cases, as with the case with Scott, the crime did not fit the punishment, and the law, as it was applied, was, I believe, abused, and as a result, he is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. You would hear, by all indications, the sentencing judge even say, there's nothing I can do here. He even predicted that there would be a change to the felony murder rule, and told him that it would be.
And there was a change.
Yes, there was a change.
However, they did not make that retroactive.
Right. There was a change, after, a rich white farmer in Iowa was charged with the felony murder rule under the same circumstances with so many people of color have been charged with, and that law was challenged and changed on his behalf. But unfortunately, it didn't offer any relief to Scott and people like him, and that's why we're here advocating for his commutation and urging the governor and the board of paroles to take this into consideration as they would go forward in the process.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Antoinette Shade in the house with us, and she is representing her nonprofit organization called the Union of Black America. Get out there and support her. Find out who she is, what she's doing. She's got a website. I believe we've got your website up where we can post it.
Yes, you can visit theunionofblackamerica.com. Also, if you want to support William Scott, you can visit change.org, and in the search bar type William C. Scott. Please sign that petition. We're at about 3,000 signatures now. We're trying to rally as much community support as possible. We do have support of some legislator, lawmakers, and people in higher power who recognize the injustice. And so please visit our site. You can join the Union of Black America. That would probably be a whole nother show, but please visit our site. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Antoinette. And I want to get you kind of connected with some other people that I'm involved with some other committees who can probably help. We may be able to come together on some things.
Okay.
There's other, when any two or more are gathered concerning anything, we know that there's power, correct?
Right, absolutely.
And
I know that.
That's right. With your last name being Shade and your family members being pastors all over Des Moines, Iowa, you're no stranger to the work of the good Lord.
That's right. Absolutely. All things are possible. I knew that taking this on, we would have an uphill battle, but I believe that all things are possible, and I'm led by that conviction, and that's why I do what I do.
All right. Amen. Well, we are definitely a faith-based program, so we like to make sure that we're giving God the credit. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up next on the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, we've got that man that used to play basketball for the Drake Bulldogs. That's right, Craig Davis. The former Drake Bulldog star has now started Davis Entertainment Network. We're going to be back in just a flash, and we're going to speak with Craig Davis. Don't change that dial. We'll be back right after these messages. Antoinette, it was a pleasure. I'll tell you
so
what.
Much. Thank you for having me.
It was such a pleasure having you on the show that when we come back, it's very cold out there. If you'd like to stay in the studios and kind of listen in on Craig Davis and our conversation, you're more than welcome to stay on the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast.
Thank you so much.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after these messages. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, on the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, episode number 21. Episode number 21. We have had a lot of great guests, a lot of great fun, a lot of great content on the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast located right here in Des Moines, Iowa. Image for Lives, nonprofit organization. I encourage you guys to get on Facebook, get on YouTube, subscribe, I.M.A.G.E TV podcast. We continue to bring you a lot of reentry, a lot of reality that's going on all over the country. And so with us now, we've got Craig Davis, the former Drake Bulldog, who is now living in Chicago, Illinois. He's got his own private company, Davis Entertainment Network, and he is doing some great things. Craig, it's a pleasure to have you on the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, episode number 21.
Well, I thank you, Bobby, for having me. I've been following your work, and I think you're doing an excellent job with ex-offenders. And keep up the good work. Just keep it up
Hey,
because it's definitely needed.
hey, thanks, and I really appreciate that coming from a guy like you. When did you play basketball at Drake? That was back in what, the
Oh,
'80s?
now you're trying to age me here. Well, I don't mind that because if you're, my dad told me, hey, if you're getting old, then that means you're still alive, and that's a
That's
good thing.
right. That's right.
I I started in my freshman year was 1970, and at that time, of course, you couldn't play varsity ball, so I played from 70 to 74. That's when I first got to Des Moines. So it's been a
it,
while since I played.
well,
It's been a while.
it was amazing that you knew our president at Caldwell Banker uh, Real Estate Company. I mean, that was phenomenal when you spoke with Coach Rod, and you guys
Really?
knew each other, and he's such a great guy. I think that that was just real special that he knew you, he knew your brother, and you guys had that relationship. He was so glad to hear from you.
Well, that's a good thing because a lot of times it's difficult to really keep up with people that you've played with, coaches, and that type of thing. But Rod is kind of special because he coached my younger brother, Mike Davis, at a college in Council Bluffs back in the 80s, and Rod was pretty special to Mike. He's passed away, God rest his soul. But I always thought Rod was a good guy when he was coaching at Drake, and I knew he'd do some big things. And real estate, I think his family was in real estate, so he's just doing what he does best.
Hey, that's great. And I'll tell you, there has been just a whole lot of action going on here in Des Moines, Iowa, with the whole reentry scene. I've been at the Capitol, of course, as you know,
Yes.
uh, trying to get this bill pushed for the incarcerated, the lifers that are actually serving life sentences. As you know, I just think that it's so unfair that a person can go 3 hours away, and a life sentence actually means maybe 25 years or 15 years straight, and then they're out. But here in Des Moines, a life sentence actually means all day long. There is never a possibility of getting out. You die in prison. And while there are some people, I agree, who have to be incarcerated because of their behavior,
Sure.
and I believe that we have to protect society and the public. That's very, very important to me. And, I don't frown on anyone who is trying to protect the public. However, after actually being in prison and experiencing these things, there are some people who have changed their lives. There are some inmates who are serving life sentences. There are actually a lot, uh, more than the few that are serving life sentences who have changed their lives and who should be let out after 25, 30 years. I mean, these people have changed, their characters changed, they've transformed into complete different people. Some of the most harmless people in all America, some of the people with some of the most integrity that are willing to help. I think that it's just a waste to keep these people incarcerated. And so, that's basically other that in real estate, practicing to get my real estate license is what I've been doing, and it's been a very, very hard struggle, just kind of managing my time. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. We've got to get to you right now. I know you're a very busy guy. I hear your phone ringing. But Craig,
Those are alarms for all of my broadcasts and stuff. Sorry
oh
about that.
goodness! Well, tell us about these broadcasts. Tell us about this streaming TV network. I mean, you
Sure.
reached out
Yeah.
to me, and I think first and foremost, I want to give a lot of respect and credit to Terry Wells for making this interview possible. I mean, he was the one that introduced me to you. He told me about a friend that he had that was very passionate, that had a lot going on with TV, had a TV show and this and that, and he was, blowing you up, and he connected me and you, and
There you
now
go.
we're here right now. So, Terry Wells, we give you a lot of credit, man. Continue to keep doing your work.
Yeah, Terry does a good job in the community. He's been doing that for years. We've been friends, oh boy, since the 80s. I know what he's been doing, and as I said, he just needs to continue to do that, work with people like yourself who are doing something for their community. There's so many people out there that have the abilities to do things, but they just don't do that. And that's, I'll segue to that, to what I'm doing, Davis Entertainment Network. This is something that's been dear to me. It's been on my mind for years, since oh boy, since I was in Des Moines working with a company called MCTV. That's Multicultural Television. It's it was a cable company at the time that we put together to bring quality programming to the Black community, to the multicultural community, because, as you know, there is never enough good, solid information coming into our homes. So we started to create that back then. With that in mind, to tell you the truth, I've been on the road for so many years, working with my wife and I. It's our company. We have a consulting firm, and we work in the auto industry. And it's been years and years and years. And finally, when this COVID thing came around last February, we got off the road, and I said, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm done with this. I'm going to utilize all of the technology, all the information that I have in my head, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to create this. And that's what I've done. This is a streaming network that streams on a third-party platform, and we utilize Roku. We utilize Fire TV. We're working on the Apple TV app and Android. I also have a website, davisentertainmentnetwork.net, that the programming streams on, and it just brings you all different types of quality programming. One of the programs that I'm really proud of that we just started airing about 2 weeks ago is Democracy Now! And that's an independent news network or news program that is aired around the world. It airs on Davis Entertainment Network at 6 and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday.
So
Also,
I got a question. When people want
Sure.
to find out about how to follow this streaming network and they want to get involved, how do they do that?
That's a good question, because Davis Entertainment Network is for the people, by the people. And what I mean by that is I'm looking for everyday people and people who have something to say, like yourself. You are on the Davis Entertainment Network.
I'm on the Davis Entertainment Network. I'm so proud of that. I seen myself on there. You walked me through the steps, and I was able to see that, and that's really cool. Now, how many people are able to are actually looking at this and seeing this? You know,
Well, you know what? That is a question that before, when I was on another platform. I started September 12th and went through to December 31st. And then I decided that, this platform really isn't working for me, because we were having problems with streaming and those types of things. So I shut down for about 15 days, went to the new platform, and all of a sudden I have all of these opportunities to stream to all of these multiple platforms. So,
okay, now, Craig, I need you to still answer my question. For the people that are listening and looking,
yes,
are they tuned in right now? They want to get
Right.
involved. How do they get involved?
they can get involved, first of all, by emailing me at craig@davisentertainmentnetwork.net. I'm the one that's going to actually answer that email and talk to them about whatever they're interested in. We have shows like we have cooking shows, we have exercise shows, we have nutrition, we do Sunday morning worship. We have shows like yours on there, and movies, cartoons. So if you are a talented person and you have something to say, then that's what we're looking for. That's how you can get involved in our network, by contacting me or going to the website and leaving an email for me. We're looking for good people to become part of Davis Entertainment Network. It's for the people, by the people.
So this is one of the things that people are probably wondering. Do they get paid for this? I mean, is there opportunity for future potential of
Yes,
maybe
sir.
earning a contract or
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay, tell us about that.
Okay, and here's the thing about it. We have a network here. This isn't it's not cheap to be able, and you're showing it's not cheap to be able to run a network. So really, from the very beginning, since it was my baby, I am doing most of the funding right now. But we are going to have some investors. We're working on that right now. But the potential for income will come around as the numbers of viewers grow, because you can
Okay.
have ad insertion, things like that. Just like you have ads for your show, there's payment there. So there's various ways of doing that. We have pay-per-view capability. So yes, there are possibilities, and people will get paid, but usually it's going to take about 6 months or so before we get that going. Again, we've only been going now for about a month and a half, about a month and a half.
Wow,
So,
that's a
yeah, a
lot of
month and a half.
progress that's been made
It
for a
is, it
month and
is,
a
and
half.
it was easy to make that move because for 3 months I had already started building, and what I had to do is just really restructure all of my programming and start porting stuff to other apps. So it's a nice setup. This platform is really nice. It works for me.
Wow, I find that very interesting. All the different things that you guys have to offer. You said a cooking show. Shows like mine, reentry shows.
Sure.
I think that's good that you have a lot of different variety for people because so many people are doing different things.
Right.
In their head, they bring into tuition the things that they've been doing in their mind, and everybody's different, has different talents. So I think that people who are watching this should get their pens and paper out and be writing some of this stuff down so that they can get in touch with you. This is something that you're not required to pay for. This is opportunity that you can
Start
utilize.
out with, definitely, to start out with, it's open to people, but as I said, down the line, then we're going to start generating some things and with investors, and you have to do something. I remember when I was with MCTV, and we were trying to get the premiere going, and people were just kind of sitting around. What do we do? What do we do? And you know what? You know what I did? I started. So I went out and produced the first show. Everybody finally started working together. They got the synergy. So you have to do something, and that's what I did. It's been in my head for years, and I just started, and that's what I'm doing right now. And it's building. It's building. It's building.
Great. That's great. And it also shows that when you're passionate about something, this is one thing, Craig, that I want you to be able to tell the people that are listening, that are watching right now, is when you're passionate about something and you start a business, a nonprofit organization, for whatever reason, there's going to be so many times where you have to put your own money into it.
Yeah.
In fact, normally when you're starting off, unless you're really fortunate, you're going to put your own money into it. You're going to put your ideas. You're going to put a lot of time. You're going to put a lot of extra things into it that normally you wouldn't do. And this really shows, how much skin in the game is what they call it that you have. Here at the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, the I.M.A.G.E program, we've got a lot of skin in the game. In fact, when I leave here, I'm going to go on a cooking show that I know nothing about, and I'm going to be eating Asian food. This isn't necessarily something that I want to do, but I'm
Right.
going to do it because, again, it displays character. It's a part of giving back. And anytime you give, the good Lord always gives it back to you. It always comes back 100 times fold. And so all of the young people, old people, middle-aged people out there, it's never too late to give up on your dream. And I think that you offer something that is so beneficial to people that are trying to make things happen. So I want to
Great point.
thank you for that, Craig.
Great point. As I said before, traditionally, minorities, Black people in general, don't have the same opportunities as our counterparts out there.
Oh man, talk about it. Talk about it.
So when
It's
you
Black
get the
History Month.
opportunity, so when you get the opportunity and you have the ability, such as a network that gives a person a platform to say something, to do something, to show something, to be somebody, then that's what I'm all about. That's what I've always been about. And that's what we need to do. We need to be able to take advantage of this. And we need to, just like you're going to this cooking show. I mean, those are things you have to do because you learn about everything. I learn from everyone. And that's what college taught me. It taught me how to learn. And I utilized almost everything I learned in college in every job that I ever worked. Every job that I worked, I take it to my next job and utilize that. The passion that you talked about earlier is something that you develop when you have an idea, something in your mind that you want to do. And if you have it, then follow your dream and just do something to get started.
All right. Hey, Craig, I want to tell you, man, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Image TV podcast, episode number 21. You made episode number 21, both you and Antoinette Shade. She was a fine young lady who...
Definitely, she was. I loved what she had to say, and I love her passion, and I know her family, too. I know her family.
Great. Yeah, it's always good to find these people who are in the Des Moines area community doing this, and, people who are all over the country. Again, for those of you watching on YouTube right now, for those of you watching on Facebook, satellite, we want to encourage you to reach out to the Image TV podcast by contacting me, Robert Pate, the president and founder of the I.M.A.G.E program. You can reach me at 515-326-5498. But I would prefer to send an email at rpate.image@mail.com or go to our website at image4lives.com. And you'll learn a lot more about the I.M.A.G.E program. We are currently looking for people who are looking to get involved with the I.M.A.G.E movement. And Craig, you have been involved with the I.M.A.G.E movement. You recruited me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I think that what you do is phenomenal, and working with ex-offenders to sort of get them reacclimated to the world, because being incarcerated is tough. I've never been incarcerated, but I know it has to be tough. And for years and years and years, you're in there. And if you do not utilize your time effectively, then you end up usually staying in there longer because you're not motivated to get out, because you become institutionalized. So what you do is necessary in Des Moines, and it's necessary for all over the country. Your program is going to help people in other parts of this country.
Thank you so much, Craig. And again, we send a prayer out for those who are incarcerated right now. We never stop praying for you guys. I was there. I could have been there for a lot longer. Could have been there for a lot less. But I'm just thankful for the time that I was able to utilize that helped changed my mind, helped me discover self-identity. For those of you watching right now, I want to encourage you. Don't ever give up. The famous Jim Valvano, who died of cancer, said it. Don't ever give up. And we have people out in the community who were incarcerated, who have changed their lives, who are out now. They own businesses, and they're making positive strides. They're accomplishing their goals. They're living in their passion. They wake up every day sober and feeling so good that they, are just encouraging to be around, to hear their testimony. And so, again, I just stand thankful here this evening talking to you and being a part of everything that's going on in my life right now.
Well, you're doing it. You're doing it. As Jesse Jackson said once, I am somebody.
That's right.
I am somebody.
Amen.
And you should think about that, people. You should think about that. That should motivate you, because don't let anybody tell you that you are not somebody. All the things that are going on right now in this country that are, it's hard to say. I'm not going to get into politics.
Oh man, it's tough every day.
Tough.
right now.
tough.
Look at all the deaths that are
Yes.
taking place right now,
Yes.
and it's everywhere. I mean, it's unfortunate that we're living in these times that we have to learn to adapt. I mean, people are working from home right now. That's a positive in some ways, and it's a negative in some ways.
Sure. Sure.
Dealing with trying to get like title transfers, tags for your car, renewals, stuff like that. I mean, for people who aren't computer literate, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So as your image TV, keep your image up, people. Understand what this life is right now. You may have some things against you, but you have to fight through them, and you have to keep your mind straight and understand the things that we're going through. Black History Month, learn your Black history, understand that we are a great people. We've always been a great people. We have thousands and thousands of inventions that we don't even know about. We have politicians, we have musicians, we have actors. We have a lot of people to look at from an image standpoint. So do what you're supposed to do. Get out there and get better, because if you haven't gotten better during this pandemic, you're wasting your time.
That's right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for tuning in to the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast located in Des Moines, Iowa. Again, we encourage you to reach out. We encourage you to subscribe by going to I.M.A.G.E, I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, and subscribe on YouTube, episode number 21. Hey, I'll tell you, Craig, last time, our very last episode, we had the famous Jermaine Wilson, former mayor who is now the commissioner in Kansas. And I'll tell you, the crazy story about all this is, I had actually planned to move to Kansas and work with Commissioner Wilson. And yeah, oh yeah, and me and him became good friends. We were just hitting it off, and so the good Lord stepped in and said, hey, this isn't the right time. I know that you want to get out of Iowa, Bobby Pate, but right now is just not the right time. And I had a hard time soaking that up, but he made it so clear. And so after I accepted it, I feel a lot better now with the move that I've made to start getting involved into real estate and start studying and becoming, just a little bit more entrepreneurial in my format and the things that I'm doing. So again, I'm thankful, and it was another encouraging aspect of my life. It was another chapter in my life where I had to learn to listen to the voice of God rather than the voice of Bobby Pate.
Sure. Yeah. And you still had things to do there. I remember when I left, I thought at the time that I had done what I could do. There was a lot of things that I got accomplished, and I needed to move on. But it was when it was right. It was when it was right, and when it was, that's when I left.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just don't. I hate the weather, in Des Moines, Iowa. After traveling the country, I played basketball in college. I played it at the University of Hawaii, Hilo, and playing in that Pac-West conference.
And they're beautiful.
Oh,
beautiful.
Man, to coming back here and seeing old friends and family and, just looking at some of the depressing roads, especially in the wintertime, it gets kind of depressing and mind-boggling. However, there's definitely work here for me to do. There are definitely, people that need help, and, God revealed that to me. So I just have to suck it up and continue on the road of the mission that he's put me on. And so,
it's a good mission. It's a commendable mission. So keep up the good work. As I said from the very beginning, you're doing some great things, and it looks like this House File 377 is a noble thing that you're doing. So just keep doing what you're doing, because it's effective and it's needed in Iowa.
Well,
it's needed all over the country.
Thank you so much. Here in Iowa versus Chicago, Illinois, which is where you're at, correct?
Yes.
I know that
suburbs.
But it must be a relief in a lot of ways living in Chicago, Illinois, when it comes to politics, when it comes to diversity.
Right.
All that plays a part into racism. You
Sure.
know,
Well, I can tell you when I left Des Moines, one of the reasons I left because I needed more. I needed to stimulate my mind. I needed opportunities. We didn't really get into it, but I started with uh, at Iowa. At the time, it was called Iowa Educational Broadcasting Network, which is now Iowa Public Television. And I started there, and I started as a cameraman, and I did various things. The technology was so different then. The cameras were huge, huge cables pulling things around. I worked on top of, I worked at the Iowa State Fair shooting shows. I was on the grandstand shooting horse shows and stock cars and all kinds of stuff, and working on commercials. I worked on Chuck Grassley and Tom Harkin's first commercials with a production company out of New York, and it was called Roger Ailes and Associates. And the guy Roger Ailes ended up being the chairman of the Republican National Committee and also president of Fox. So uh, getting started there was very good for me because it gave me good hard experience. So moving to the big city, I ended up going working for a video engineering company where we were building television stations all over the world, and also working for Sony Electronics, where we were number one in uh, innovation and digital technology and high definition TV and things like that.
oh wow, that's great,
So,
man. It sounds
so
like
those
you've
were,
been doing a lot of good, positive things too.
yeah. Well, over the years, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this now because um, in the 90s working for Sony, no one knew about digital television. No one knew about high definition. They didn't talk about still image, which is what it was called there. But I worked in the government systems division where I marketed products to the government. One of my largest accounts was NASA Lewis Research Center in Cleveland. And
Wow.
some of I sold them some high definition cameras and recorders to be able to analyze. In this particular project, they were analyzing how water droplets went over the wing of planes. So they're looking at how the weather was affecting that, and they needed a really, really high-end image camera to be able to do that. Um, one of
Let
the
me ask
still
you a
image.
question.
Mhm.
This is somewhat off the record. A lot of people
That's
say that Iowa is just racist and prejudice, and they have a lot of negative things to say, and I can agree with them in a lot of that.
yeah,
However, you find a lot of nice people in Iowa too, and one of the things that I've wrestled with just over the months is, and I had to read my Bible and be able to identify some of this, is the fact that you have a predominant Caucasians in the state of Iowa.
yeah,
Okay, take Atlanta, Georgia, where you have predominant African Americans. Well, dealing with the character of the culture makes a huge difference. And what I mean by that is we can't change the fact that Iowa is predominantly white. Okay, so the character of Caucasians, it has its own type of character, and I think people
sure,
get that mixed up with racism and prejudice. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of racism and prejudice still in the state of
sure.
Iowa. You
Oh,
know,
I wouldn't doubt it.
yeah, oh, there is, and it's been exposed. Many different times in my
Yeah,
life, I've seen it. However, it can also be mistaken a lot of times. Because I've sat on both sides of this fence. Where I've actually have blended with Caucasians, and my high school coach, who I consider to be my family, who I lived with, I was able
sure.
to experience that part of it as well. So there's just a lot of different things that can be confused with racism and prejudice, and I wanted to just make that point out there for all of those listening.
Yeah,
We make the excuse of racism and prejudice, and a lot of it is just identifying character. I mean, there's a lot of people in Iowa that have never communicated or really associated with African
sure.
Americans.
Yeah, that's true. Those are all good points, and obviously, I lived in Iowa for a while. I mean, I left in the mid '80s, but knowing people, some of the greatest influences in my life have been Caucasian people, and that's because of situations.
Mine too.
For instance, at Drake, everybody knows this guy if they went to the Drake relays. His name was Jim Duncan. He was the voice of Drake relays for probably 30 years. When I got to Drake, I didn't really have any idea of what courses I wanted to take, but I ended up taking they don't call it this anymore, but a radio and TV course or class at the time, and ended up designating one of my majors was journalism. So, but this guy told me, said, "Hey," he said, "You know what? You have a pretty decent sounding voice, and you're picking up on this stuff pretty quickly. You ought to really consider it." And after a while, um, I decided that that's what I wanted to do, and I've been in and out of the industry for, well, since probably 74, 75. So in and out. But when I've been in it is when I've been my most happiest. And that guy didn't have to do that for me, but he did. And that sort of helped me to have an understanding of what you just talked about, character. The guy had character and he had class, and he wasn't worried about me and my dark skin. He was worried about one of his students being able to make a difference in the world and a difference in the industry. So I think people should look at that. Character is important, and if a person has character, then you're going to at least be able to communicate with them. And when they don't, well, we know what happens when that happens.
That's right. And it's important not to judge, even when you feel like you're being attacked, you find
It's
out
tough. It's
find out
tough.
that people have different problems, identity
Yeah,
crisis problems. There's so
sure.
many different problems that we're quick to blame a lot of things on racism and prejudice and
Yeah,
stuff like that. So just something to be very aware of. But at the same time, it's also good to know your history.
sure.
Got to know your history. There's
History is
been
important
a,
because it
yes,
helps you to understand where you were or where you came from and where you're heading. And most people don't necessarily think that that's important, but I do. As I mentioned before, I want to know that Eli Wallach or didn't invent the cotton gin. Eli Whitney did not invent the cotton gin. One of his slaves did.
that's
But
right.
at the time, slaves could not get patents. So what happened was a lot of the slave owners and we were innovative people. So we would make machinery, or we'd invent something to make the back breaking labor that we were going through or that our ancestors were going through, make it easier. They would take the patent, and that's that. So,
I'll give you another quick tip before we end
sure.
on, since it's Black History Month,
Yes.
is if you look at the deed to houses,
Yes.
I didn't realize that black people couldn't even own houses, back in the day. And so even on the deed, it literally says that a black person couldn't own a house. And so
Right.
that was incredible. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
so we've changed a whole lot. Thank God that things have changed, but we've
yeah.
still got so far to go.
Yeah, you're right about that. I can tell you one quick thing. I can remember when we first got our first house, and it was amazing because we had rented for so long, and we lived in duplexes and things like that. But we got our first house in the '50s, late '50s.
Hmm.
So so things had changed. Things had changed at the time, but there's still things out there that are people are working against us. So hopefully what you're doing, what I'm doing, helps to open things up for us, and we understand the power of communication and business and buying houses and owning things, and that is going to help us to continue to build character.
All right. Well, it looks like we're about out of time. Hey, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Craig, you've been awesome, man, and we'll continue to stay in touch. I hope that people hear this, they reach out to you and start utilizing your services. It's great what you're doing. It brings opportunity to people that have a passion that may want to get into TV, podcasting, things like that. So we definitely need that, and I'm glad that you brought that to the table tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Robert Pate, and we've got Craig Davis, and we're saying so long from the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, episode number 21. And as we normally say about this time, it's a wrap.
Excellent.
Thanks, man.
Excellent, Bobby. That was good. That was real good.